Thank you all for joining. My name is Michelle, and I am here from Erie River, and we are doing live event number 2 today for A Calls from the Sea, which we are really excited about. This is book number 4 from our It Calls From series, which is our horror anthology series. So this one obviously is all about sea horror and water and ships and scary things like that. So we're very excited about you guys reading it, and we hope you love it. We're really excited to announce that we are number 1 in new release horror anthologies, and we are number 1 new release in horror short stories and oh my gosh, I can't speak words today. Horror short stories. I think we're number 1 in something else, but I forgot. So if someone can remind me, just like put it up there. But so far, 2 of our main categories, we are number 1 new release, and we are top 20 for both of those categories for overall, which is amazing. So thank you so much, everyone who's bought or read some pages or anything like that for supporting us, because this is a huge thing, and we're all really excited about it. So let's bring all of our authors in. We're going to start with Steve Neal. Just to let you know, Steve. We're bringing our authors in to say hi. Oh, there's Holley. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Calls from the Sea. So we are here to celebrate It Calls from the Sea, and I was told, or what we were just talking about behind us, none of us really have our author copies yet, but somebody does have a copy. And that's Trey. Now look at that cover. Ooh. Now that is, and like, it's a sexy cover, but not only that, but it's a pretty thick book.
Look at the size of that thing. That's a tome.
I know. It's the total package, everybody. So if you haven't got your paperback or hardcover, get it now. Let me just see. So yeah, it is available now. If you want to buy the hardcover or paperback, you can get it actually at any of your local bookstores. All you have to do is go in or call and ask them to carry it, or you can head over to Amazon and they should have a link there to pick them up if you prefer to get them delivered. So they're available everywhere, and you can also order them from our website. But it looks like we've got a couple people that are here already. So hello, David Green and Trevor and Simone. If you are watching, don't forget to put a small comment, say hi, or ask us a question. We'll get back to those anytime, because we are pulling for some prizes, some live prizes today. We're going to do some bookmarks and some postcards. Postcards are really funny. If you haven't seen them before, they've got like bloody fingerprints and blood splatter at the back because I made them. So of course they do. And then just a really nice bookmark. So we're going to be pulling live for those after the readings. And then in a week, we're going to let people comment as we go for the week, and we're going to pull for an actual signed copy of It Calls from the Sea. So make sure to comment at any time. So and we got hi from Jennifer and Adrian. Hello. And Nikki and Alyssa and Simone again. Hello, Simone. So thank you all for joining us. We're really excited about this one. So let's get started and introduce our authors. Let's start with Steve Neal. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm Steve Neal. You can follow me at Twitter at Steve Neal Writes. I mostly write horror, dabble in some other things, but spooky stuff is mostly where I hang out in.
Yeah. How did you get into writing horror?
I've just always really liked scary stuff.
Yeah.
Like from when I was a kid, like I started on Goosebumps and Nightmare on Elm Street when I was way too young.
I know, right?
And it ruined me forever. So I can't really write anything else.
I don't know if I would say ruined you forever, because
I don't know.
I'm like, I watched that stuff when I really shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Trey, how about you? Where can we find you, and what do you write?
You can find me in St. Louis in the USA. I write a bunch of different things, and mystery, crime, science fiction, but obviously horror too. And I, like Steve, got started at an early age and was inappropriately shown the Amityville Horror when I was far too young. And
that's a good one.
It's good, but probably not if you're 10. But
10?
I think that's how old I was, thereabouts.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I actually the book that got me started on horror was Peter Benchley's Jaws. I read that when I was just a kid before I ever saw the movie because I was terrified of seeing the movie. And that stuck with me for a long time. Even to this day, it's tough for me to swim in the ocean. So when I saw the call for It Calls from the Sea, I mean, come on.
You're like,
that's a slam dunk. I gotta submit.
Do this.
Yep.
How about you? So where can people find you on social media?
My website is treydowell.com, and you can find me at Twitter at treydowell3. My books and stories are on Amazon. All you have to do is do a name search, and you'll find me.
Okay. And Chris Banner, nice to see you today.
Hello. I'm Chris. You can find me at Facebook. It's where I spend most of my time. Too much time. It's Chris Banner.
Like, I feel you.
Exactly. For getting into horror, I'm probably the worst person to be writing horror because I'm absolutely terrified by horror movies. I can't watch them. I don't really read a lot of horror either because it just terrifies me. I have a friend who, my friend Teresa Halverson just released a ghost romance, like paranormal story, and it freaked me out so bad I had to stop reading. I stayed up till like 7 o'clock in the morning because I was so terrified I couldn't go to sleep. So
Jeez.
I'm like the worst horror person ever, but I love writing it. I don't know why. I stumbled onto it by accident, and it just keeps coming back.
It just does something to you, right?
It does. And now, like, when I'm trying not to write horror, it's creeping in. Yeah. So
I understand that. Sometimes it calls to you. Like the sea.
I see what you did there. That was good.
Mackenzie, what about sorry, where can we find you?
So my link thingy is right here. So I'm mostly on Instagram and Facebook. So you can find me, Mackenzie L. Richardson. It's where I spend most of my time. I am on Twitter, but I don't really do much there. And as far as me and horror, I have a similar experience with Chris. I'm terrified of everything. I was like such a like very fearful child. I used to have to like leave theaters because the previews were too scary for me. So I think a lot of that comes out in my horror because I'm just like, oh, this is perfect. I'm scared of everything. Like, so.
I don't even know how to like previews scare you.
Well, like I feel like when I was little, it'd be like I just like didn't know what they would be, and I think there was like a few where it's like my mom would take me to movies that I was probably too young to see, so then there'd be like horror movie previews that I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
And then just being surrounded by it, and I can't leave, and it's like at home you can just peek through your eyes, and I'm like oh, it's so loud.
Yeah. So you just decided to write horror because it terrified you?
Apparently. Okay. I don't think I like tried to. My previous writings weren't, but then they just kind of like steered toward it. And then once I found Erie River, a lot of my beginning submissions were more like dark fantasy, which I think is my safe place. Yeah. And then I was just like so motivated to get in It Calls from the Forest that it was like, my first submission was more dark fantasy side. And then my second one, I was like, no, I'm getting in. And then I was so excited when it got accepted.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you write for them. because I enjoy reading your stories every time. Holley, tell us where we can find you and how did you get into writing horror?
So I'm on Facebook as H Lynn Cornetto, Lynn. I am on Twitter at HL Cornetto down there somewhere. And my website is hollycornetto.com. So that's pretty much where I am. I'm a little more active on Facebook, but I'm trying to be more active on Twitter. It's a process. I'm a little shy on social media. I'm more of a lurker, but I can promise you that, you know, if you friend me on Facebook or you follow me on Twitter, I will be your cheerleader. I follow other people, other authors. I try to help promote and share other people's links because I'm really about, like, I've been a part of this indie writing community for a while now, and I've just always been impressed by the other authors, the generosity, the kindness of people, and I always try to pay that forward and pay it back. So if you're looking for someone who will cheerlead for you, someone who will, you know, share, I'm definitely that person.
Everybody run and follow Holley. No, but it's true. You are someone that always likes and comments and shares whenever you can. So it's.
I honestly feel more comfortable talking about other people than talking about myself. So that's probably why. So like I might be a little shy about sharing my own things, but if you post something, I'm there.
Yeah.
So I guess in terms of how I got started with horror, I've done one of these before, and those of you who have seen it, you know, when I was young, I read like the R.L. Stine Goosebumps books, and my mom, who passed away in 2014, she read them with me, and then from there she started reading, you know, we started reading the Fear Street books. We started reading more adult horror, so we moved on to like John Saul books and like Stephen King and other things, V.C. Andrews. And it just became like a bonding thing for us. Like she would read a book and pass it to me. I would read a book and pass it to her. We used to go to used bookstores or thrift stores and go to like the used books, and we'd pick the horror off the shelves. So somewhere along the way, I think that my love of horror and my love of my mom kind of fused together. And so that's why horror for me, I think.
Yeah. Well, it brings back lots of good memories and feelings, right?
It does.
Oh, that's understandable. All right. So what we're going to do now, thank you all for introducing yourselves. And thanks again, everyone who's watching. Thank you for joining. If you haven't already, say hi in the comments, or we will have a question and answer period at the end. So feel free to write something and I'll try to tag it so that we can get to it after. If you have a specific question for an author, remember to put their name on it. If not, it will be a group question. But what we're going to do now is we're going to do some readings. So I'm going to take everyone off except for Steve. He is going to go first. We're going to talk to him, and then we will bring everyone else one at a time and then pull for some postcards. Whoop, whoop. And again, if you haven't seen the cover, this isn't the cover. Well, this is the cover, but it's a postcard cover. But it's a sexy, like, look at that. Who doesn't want to own that? But again, put your name down in the comments so we can enter you into draw. I'm putting everyone's names in a little bucket. All right. So if I accidentally remove you guys, remember just to use this sign back in by Holley. We're slowly going to get down just to one. But thank you again for joining us. I can't wait to hear everyone's little stories. And Neal, Steve, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm good. Are you ready?
No.
Well, your story, why don't you give us a little bit of a preview? What is your story called? And was there any sort of inspiration to this? Like what is it about?
So my story's Hostile Territory. I saw the call and I saw the cover and I was just like, I want this. I want to be a part of this. And I saw that it calls from the sea. So my brain immediately went to something that wasn't the sea, because naturally that's what you do. And so I wrote a story that had no connection to the sea whatsoever, and then managed to shoehorn it in at the end. I guess it's mostly just inspired by living in a very, very hot area that is full of swamps and horrible things, and you can't really see what's lurking around in that like
Yeah.
muddy water that's like waist high. It's just I find it very unsettling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us a little, well, you decide what you want to do if you want to give a little introduction to it, but I'm going to leave you alone to enjoy your, give us a little preview, and I just got to figure out how to get myself, oh my gosh, I don't want to accidentally remove myself from the whole system and close everything. I'm going to hit a button and see what happens.
I think I'm still here. All right, so we're jumping a little way into the story, as there's a lot of setup, and it was quite difficult to find the right part to read. I don't want to give too much away. I quite like kind of where the story goes, so hopefully this doesn't give too much away. All right, well, time to meet the star of the show. You can see him already over there. Marlin pointed to the edge of the lake, a part in the tall grass where the blades sat and bent. Kat stood and squinted out to the distance while Anders hung onto her belt loop. Only the gator's head was visible from where they sat, and even that was enough to show its gargantuan size. From snout to neck, the reptile's head would have been as long as a basketball player's torso and as wide as a bodybuilder's. Beady eyes stared back, making direct contact with her. She slapped at Anders. "Do you see this thing? Holy crap!" She pointed and flailed before grabbing his head and directing it towards Mongo. "That's real?" Anders stood and turned to Marlin with his mouth agape. "Very real. Older than all of us combined, I reckon. Y'all want to meet him?" "Please?" Kat burst out in excitement. Marlin walked back and returned with the cooler in his arms, placing it between the feet of the couple. Inside, packed between pounds of ice, were a few bottles of water, a few beers, and chunks of uncovered chicken breast. "Drinks?" "No, thank you." Anders held up his hand. Kat shook her head, unenthused by the idea of sipping on a beer can coated in the slime from raw chicken. Marlin shrugged and dove his hand into the cooler, removing 3 chunks of chicken in one swoop. He knelt and dipped one of them into the water, swirling it around. The grass in the distance rustled as Mongo lurched forward. Ridges rose above the surface of the water as he emerged from the grass. In what seemed like a cruel joke, an endless procession of protrusions kept coming no matter how many seconds passed. Even as the ridges tapered inward, and the wake from Mongo's tail swishing became visible, his size still seemed like an impossibility to Kat. "How freaking big did you say he was?" Anders asked, shuffling around the bench into the back row. "About 19 feet or so. We don't measure him very often," Marlin said, standing up. "Can I stay up here?" Kat asked. "Course. Ain't nothing to be afraid of. He just wants his chicken. Eating us too much hassle for the lazy thing." The alligator stopped a few dozen feet away from the boat. Its eyes and nostrils were among the few things visible above the water. Marlin bent back down again, splashing the chicken around in the water. "Dinner time, my friend," he called out, extending his arm forward over the edge of the boat. Mongo burst forward again, serpentining in the water, fluid motions that closed the distance. Kat watched in amazement, marveled by the grace of a creature larger than the boat she stood upon. Everything worked in tandem to bring him closer to them. Kat's mouth hung open, passing trembling exhales over her lips as beads of sweat formed on her palms. Little details became visible as the weathered and scarred Leviathan neared, every crack and dimple on a hide that had grayed from decades of living. In one fluid movement, Mongo rose his head out the water, jaws wide open as he bent back on himself and snapped down at the water near his midsection. A great splash mixed with Kat's yelps and Anders' string of curses, creating an appropriate din to the sudden flash of violence. Mongo started to roll, spinning in place and sending out miniature waves that bobbled the airboat. "Take your seats," Marlin shouted as he grabbed the oar and tried to move the boat away from the mayhem. "He's got some." Kat had already flung herself onto the bench to avoid the turmoil. No fear bubbled inside of her. A curiosity rose instead, the wonderment of seeing an apex predator kill in person. She tried to look at his mouth, to see what he'd caught between his jaws, but couldn't see many details through the plumes of water and foam. All she could make out was chunks of gray and occasional bits of white as the alligator's underbelly became visible as it spun. Streaks of red appeared, and the foam around Mongo gained a pink hue as blood mixed with the swamp. What's it got? I don't know.
I don't know. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
I have to say, your story, when I read it, I was like, please don't have sold this somewhere else.
Oh,
So I was like, oh my gosh.
thank you.
Yeah. Because I do, I go through and I when I read, I go through and I have some that are like my top tier ones, and I'm like, okay, but I don't like to make final decisions until I read everything, just because like I find it fair, as well as sometimes like your moments, I don't know, sometimes you can be really drunk. No. Sometimes in comparison, you can be like, oh, though this story was fantastic. But anyways, you're stuck to my top the whole time. And I was like,
Well, thank you.
please, please, please.
That means a lot. 'Cause,
So,
yeah.
no, I really enjoyed it. So we do have a comment from someone. They said, love this. The enormity of real creature is actually as frightening as any fictional horror monster. And it's true. But does it
It's fighting some.
necessarily?
Got some. Who knows?
Hmm.
Buy it now. Find out.
I know. You're going to want to read this one because it honestly, yeah, I still think about this story every once in a while.
Really?
So, yeah. I enjoyed every bit of it. Yeah.
That's really awesome to hear.
Yeah. I hope I'm making you uncomfortable with my compliments.
You are.
Good. I
Thank
loved
you.
your story. But yeah, it was a good story, and it was a good way to like, yeah, because not all of the stories were necessarily took place in the sea. The call was essentially like water related.
Yes.
Horror. So some things were seas, some things were bogs, one of them is even someone's swimming pool and house, which I said it would have to be the strangest story I ever heard if I was going to accept a swimming pool party and a swimming pool story, and it was. So really good story. Now let's go. Thank you so much for reading, and we will see you in a little bit. I'm going to remove you from the stream. And I did it properly this time. Yesterday, if you were here, I just kept kicking myself out over and over again. So everyone else was like, oh, I thought I was supposed to be gone. Anyways, we are going to have, and I forgot to tell the people in the back who actually is going next. So the one that had the lowest number is going next. So Chris Banner, are you ready? That means Holley, you're after that. All right, here we go, Chris. How are you?
Good.
Excellent. Well, tell us before we get started a little bit about your story and like your inspiration behind it.
My story is called Euphoria. And the inspiration was actually there was a chat going on about ideas people were like different creatures people were thinking of writing for.
Yeah.
And it was either you or Alana who mentioned Kelpies.
Yeah.
And they're like, somebody needs to do Kelpies. I'm like, ding, that's me.
Yeah. I think it might have been Alana. Do you know what? It could have been both of us at one time. Like,
but I was like, okay, that's just what I'm going to do. And you know, when you do something called It Calls from the Sea, like my first thought is, I'm sure a lot of people had, were like mermaids or sirens, you know, some kind of like kraken out of the ocean. And I'm like, I don't want to do that because that's probably going to be a lot.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot. So like it came down to like picking the ones that like stood out the most. So yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, and I've written stories like that before too. So I was like, what haven't I written? And somebody mentioned Kelpies and I'm like, I haven't done that before. And I'd actually researched them a little bit for a Drabble project and ended up not going with it. So I was like, this is just a perfect time for me to go into that. So that's kind of where it started. And I've been writing a lot of more like small town horror lately. Yeah. I come from a small town. I live in California now, but like I grew up in a small town in Ohio. So that's been creeping into my writing a lot lately too, besides the horror. It's like this Midwest kind of gothic horror thing that's been coming on lately. So
very cool.
I just ran with it. Well,
you got to run with it. When it calls you, you have to run with. I'm going to just keep bringing calls into everything. When you hear the call, you must answer. All right, well, I'm going to leave you, and you just take it and run with it.
Absolutely.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to read. This is not the introduction because I it was a little bit slower. It's a slower reading. Like I said, I've been doing a lot more like Midwest Gothic kind of stuff. So it has like a slower kind of build up to it, I feel. And I want to do something that was a little bit, at least got you into the horror part of it a little bit. But the story takes place, it's a character named Andrew. He lives in a small town, and he wants to get out. Nobody gets out of this small town, but he really wants to. And this is like a typical Friday night, been drinking in a parking lot with his friends, and screw it, I'm going off to do my own thing now, and just trying to get away from the small town, you know, banter, and just where he feels it's a dead end. So he's just going off on his own, and he's really walking out in a small area, and that's where, like a small wooded area, and that's where we come across him. So I'm going to get started now. Andrew came to a small clearing by the river, to a place where a large rock split the waters. He'd spent hours on that rock, alone or with friends, swimming in the deep pool when the rains had been good. In the center of the river, resting on the rock, was a dark horse. His hair and coat were so dark they blended in with the night, but they had a sheen that caught the moonlight. It was ethereal, like the stories of fairies his little sister liked him to read to her at bedtime. The light of the moon reflected off the water and washed it in an eerie green. Its mane was so long that it brushed the water, the hair dancing around, almost like it was alive. Its tail disappeared into the pool, swirling with the gentle current. He took a step closer, but the leaves under his feet made a crackling sound. The horse snorted and turned its head towards him, though it didn't try to run away. It stared at him, intelligence in its eyes. He'd never seen or heard of a black horse around town. Maybe it was wild and had managed to stay hidden. Or maybe it had escaped from some hell and was enjoying freedom for the first time. It was stuck on the rock, though, and he didn't want to leave it there. It wasn't a good idea to approach a wild animal, but he came back to the horse's eyes. Thoughts were going on behind there. He believed he could help it. Shh, he said softly as he neared the river. He kept his hands in front of him and made his way to the water's edge. The horse whinnied as he stepped into the water, but it didn't move away. It stayed remarkably calm. You aren't hurt, are you? He asked in a gentle tone. If you are, I'll take care of you. Don't worry. We'll get you back across the water so you won't be trapped here. The horse shook its mane as he stepped knee-deep into the river. Another stride and the cold water was up to his waist. The riverbed dropped off then, leaving him to swim across the rock. He tried to keep up the soothing sounds as he moved through the water, but there's only so much he could do as the water splashed up into his face. The horse still made no move to get away. He pulled himself up onto the rock and sat for a moment, catching his breath and letting the horse get used to him. The horse seemed to be more curious than scared, and it continued to whinny and shake its mane as if encouraging him. He reached out a hand and carefully patted its nose. He felt a sense of comfort as he crept forward, gently resting his hand on the horse's mane. The horse didn't respond to his touch, and he ran his hand down over the wet mane. What did you get into? He asked the horse. The hair that looked so beautiful in the moonlight was slimy to the touch. He started to pull his hand away and was surprised when it seemed to be stuck. His fingers were trapped in the fine hairs of the horse's mane. And that's the end of my reading. To see what happens next, you got to buy the book.
I'm enjoying this whole buy the book at the end of everything.
Buy the book.
No, but it was seriously though, buy the book. But no, we've had such a really good, impressive. Everyone's excited about this one. Like we've been excited about the ones before. Like everyone, like the hype is getting a little bit bigger, and people are really looking forward to it and excited about it and buying them. So it's really exciting to see what's happening with the series. And I'm so glad that you wrote for us and that we were able to put the story in, because we absolutely loved it. So it was great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I think we've got a comment on here. Hold on. Such gentle descriptions. But with such a pervading sense of horror. That was from Simone. And then David says he is your number one fan and he will fight anyone for the position.
I love you, David. You know I do.
Well, thank you so much for reading, and thank you for being a part of the book. And like, I'm just excited to see where this goes. So, yeah, great story. If you want to read more, buy the book. You can see the little scrolling ticker right on the bottom. All right, we'll talk to you in a little bit. I think we have. I'm going to remove from the stream. Oh, I did it right again the second time. I'm pretty sure it's Holley next. Yes. So we have Holley next. Holley.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
You're good. So your story, what is it called, and what was the inspiration behind this one?
So the title of my story is Heaven's Lake.
Mhm.
And when I thought about the call, I thought there were probably going to be a lot of people writing about sea monsters. I thought there'd probably be some Cthulhu. I figured things like that, abandoned ships, ghost ships, and I wanted to do something different. So I went with a lake instead of with the sea.
Yeah.
And for me, like in terms of horror, my loves are, coming of age horror,
Yes.
weird fiction, cosmic horror, and Southern Gothic. And so I tried to blend all of my loves into this story. So what you have is a weird coming of age Southern Gothic, and I apologize for it. In terms of specifically for the story, a lot of you guys who know me will know I was raised in the South, thus the Southern drawl. And when we talk about things that scare us and things that we're horrified by, because obviously this is the horror genre. One of the things that I look back on my childhood sometimes and I think, oh my God, like a normal person would be terrified. When I was younger, I've been to churches that were like handled snakes, where people were talking in tongues and stomping up and down church aisles. These things that don't really happen elsewhere in the world, at
They
least as
don't.
much. Yeah, but I've seen these things firsthand, and it's
We have to
horrifying
have
to me
more
now.
conversations. Like we need
So,
to talk.
So like now that I'm an adult and I've moved away and I've put a lot of years, I see it in a different perspective, and I think, oh my God, like these things that I saw and witnessed as a child are horrifying. Like this is terrible. And I mean, I don't mean to offend anyone that subscribes to a particular set of beliefs or anything, but just for me personally, having been a child in a church with snakes is horrific. So I tried to pull all these things out when I wrote. And no, there's no snakes in this, so that's not the concern. But I thought about like religion and sort of the cult and the insularness of being in like a fundamentalist community, and how that can be a dangerous thing. That combined with some inspiration from Lovecraft's Color Out of Space, which is one of my favorites. I love that one. So there's a little touch of that to add some weird flavor in.
Yeah, it definitely had all of those elements, and I thought it was a really interesting story. Like it had multiple levels and layers in it, and the characters going through different things. Like I really enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people will really like it too. So I'm excited for your reading, and I hope everyone will buy the book.
Yes, everyone should buy the book.
Let's see here. So I'm going to leave you to it. Happy reading.
Thank you.
And I'll see you soon.
So I'm going to give just a little bit of context for my story. As I mentioned, this is kind of a coming of age, Southern Gothic kind of thing. But Heaven's Lake, which is the title of my story, it takes place in two timelines. One in which the protagonist, Rusty, is a young boy, and the other timeline happens when Rusty is an adult and he's gone back to his childhood home. So for the excerpt I'm going to be reading, we'll begin reading from a section from Rusty's point of view when he is an adult, but then it changes partway through to his point of view when he was a young boy. So here we go. You remember coming here and telling me about the revival? Yeah, I rubbed my eyes. But if we were all infected by something, I could have imagined it all. At least, that's what a string of failed therapists had tried to persuade me. What if it was all a hallucination? Rusty, I don't know what all you remember, but that preacher was sick. He didn't look right. His skin was gray and he was sweating buckets. It was like he was bewitched or something. If you were infected, you would have looked like that too. The memories rushed back in fragments like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle locking into place. I thought it was a virus. Everyone started acting weird. One night before the revival, I followed my parents out. It wasn't like them to leave the house in the middle of the night, and Daddy had never taken an interest in anything to do with church. It was hard to speak, and the words nearly stuck in my throat. We were drawing too close to the memories I'd tried for years to block out, the ones I'd run from when I left Alabama. Earl leaned against the counter. The mint-colored paint was peeling off in strips. What did you see? I sobbed. I don't know. It was dark, and I was scared. I saw my parents meet up with Wilkins and other people from the church, but I wasn't close enough to hear much of what they said. But I'd heard enough to know something wasn't right. I peered out from behind a large pine. Lightning bugs danced through the night sky, leaving whispers of light in their wake. Moonlight glittered across the lake's surface and lit up the forest. From this distance, I could see my parents approach the water, Wilkins standing just beyond them. My heart pounded so fast I thought they might hear it. Beside Wilkins was a faint silhouette I recognized as Clint. But why was Clint here? I felt a stab of envy. Why let him in on the secret? Not me. I ducked back behind the tree as the forest came alive with the sound of footsteps. People emerged from all sides approaching the lake. Even in the dark, there seemed to be nowhere to hide, but they didn't see me. They passed right by as if in some kind of trance. Brother Wilkins lifted his arms the same way he'd done in church. I thank you all for coming out tonight. Now we all know that God rewards his faithful. I want those of you with faith in the Lord to step forward. The group, almost as one, stepped forward. Wilkins placed his hand on Clint's shoulder. This young man has volunteered to demonstrate his faith. Clint stared up at Wilkins with that same glazed-over look in his eyes. Wilkins waded out into the lake until he was waist-deep, Clint at his side, both now brightly illuminated by the reflection of the moonlight on the water. The other congregants stepped into the shallows, watching and waiting. Clint raised his hands into the air, and a collective gasp went out from the crowd. Behold, he bears the marks of Christ. I squinted, stepping closer to try and see what mark Wilkins meant, but I saw nothing. The congregants called out their amens and hallelujahs. I stole a glance at my parents and saw tears in my father's eyes. Those tears terrified me more than anything. I turned and broke into a full run, not stopping until I was back home. I hid under my blanket for what seemed like hours until I finally heard the creak of the screen door. In the morning, as soon as sunlight hit my window, I threw on my clothes and took off running to the junk man's house. And that is where I'm going to stop. If you want to find out what happens, buy the book. Yes.
Buy the book. Great reading. I love that story. Oh, we've got some comments here.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is everything I loved about Forest Man again. Always such a big fan.
Simone, I love you. You know I love you.
Yeah. And then, yes, Forest Man was and still is so good.
Thank you, David.
And for those that don't know, Forest Man, who is making Holley so uncomfortable, is in this book. It calls from the Forest, Volume 1. Was in the first one, right? Pretty sure.
Yeah. It's also a coming of age horror story.
Exactly.
It also has multiple timelines. So if you can't tell, this is kind of my shtick.
It is your writing style, but you do it really, really well, which is, I think,
Thank you.
Sometimes when you find something that like you can do really well, you stick with it.
It is the type of story I enjoy reading.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is the type of story I try to write because I love the coming of age horror and I like when you see the repercussions of what happened to children when they are now adults. And that's
Yes.
something that I try really hard to include in a lot of my stories. I've been trying to change it up a little more recently, but this is pretty much my favorite
Nothing
thing.
wrong with going back to it every once in a while, because
And
it's
Forest Man and Heaven's Lake are probably my two favorite stories that I've ever written. So
good. Well, I'm glad I have them both in my collection. So thank you. No, great reading. Thank you so much. I just want to see. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to say goodbye for right now.
Sorry, I just read David's comment and I'm laughing.
Yeah. Holley, please read all of my stories. Thank you. I know we were just, David texted me early. He was like, I love how Holley reads. I'm like, I know, her accent kills me. All right, next up we have McKenzie. Hi, McKenzie. How are you today?
Hi, good.
Good. Nice to see you.
I'm excited to be here.
Good. So tell us a little bit about your story. What was the inspiration and what is it called?
So my story is The Hunter and the Prey. Like many of the things I start writing for Erie River, my initial submission was very dark fantasy, and this was like my last minute inspiration. I was like, no, I need to go horror. So I was just like in the shower, surrounded by water, and like it was just kind of like I got like the tone of their narration, and I was like, okay, what can I do with this? And then just went from there.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Because this one was this is one of the ones that is like a smaller story. It isn't like the 8,000 word ones.
Yeah.
But it's got a quite a big punch to it, which I really, when I read it, I went, haha. Because I always enjoy having that happen in a book.
Yeah.
I always enjoy, there's moments where you're like, okay, I kind of see where this is going. And I appreciated where it went.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to leave you to it. If you want to give us a little introduction, you can. If not, you can just start reading whatever you feel is right for you. And I'm going to, there we go.
It's good. All right. So like I said, my story is The Hunter and the Prey. It's a nice, short, sweet little tale. As sweet as you can get in horror, I guess. So it's the story of two teenagers at summer camp. There's Brody, the eye candy of the summer camp, and our unnamed female narrator, who's more quiet and reserved. This is the tale of their budding romance of sorts at a camp that has a few dark secrets. So because it's nice and short, we're just going to drop you right in the middle of things. Night was approaching slowly, the sky darkening and the stars beginning to open their eyes, watching us as we headed down toward the pond. We walked together, about a foot apart, Brody wheeling his bike between us like a protective barrier. I was not sure who it was protecting. As we walked, I could hear Brody breathing. His heart boomed in his chest, excitement written all over his face at the expectation and anticipation of long-awaited relief. I knew the feeling. The camp counselors said the pond was too dirty for water activities. It had once been a swimming hole for the camp, for fishing and specimen collecting, but over time nasty things had grown in it. Its surface was green and slimy, the water beneath nearly black. Now it was used more as a landmark, a way to measure distance on group hikes. When we arrived at the pond, we both looked out over its scummy surface. Algae and weeds prevented the water from reflecting the brightening star faces that dotted the sky above, lending their light to the scene. We headed to the far end, where abandoned beer cans peeked out from snaggles of weeds. In the encroaching darkness, I registered movement on the surface of the pond. A little frog's head popped up, the water rippling around it. The creature blinked once, then retreated back into the oily liquid, having better things to do than witness what we were up to. They say there's a monster in the pond, Brody said, all scales and teeth. They say it enjoys the taste of human flesh. His mouth twisted up into a grin as he watched me from the corner of his eye. From his tone, I could tell that Brody was trying to scare me, to frighten me so he could comfort me. If I ever saw the thing, I'd kill it. Something so hideous has no right to be alive. The world should only have pretty things. Silence. Grasshoppers sang around our feet, and a slight breeze wafted the smell of stagnant water toward us, where it danced along our skin. When I did not take the bait, Brody reached out and clasped my hand, spinning me to face him. My hand ached under his tight grip, his 2 long fingernails digging into my flesh. His face hovered close to mine, so close I could feel his breath against my cheek. It smelled of bologna sandwiches, and I wrinkled my nose at the odor. You really do look yummy, Brody smiled at me. Then, still holding my hand in one of his, the other clasped my breast. His grip was hard against the tender flesh, and I winced, his fingers like claws burrowing through my shirt, clumsily trying to find the skin beneath. I pulled away, but he yanked me toward him so that our lips met. He tasted like bologna, too. When he finally separated his face from mine, he looked at me with those sky blue eyes, trying to read my expression. It was then that, for the first time, I smiled at Brody. Brody screamed. So to find out why Brody screamed, you have to buy the book.
I like this. Great reading. I love it. We've got, I'm just trying to see if I could. We've got some comments from people. From Simone, fond memories of my first encounter with McKenzie.
Ooh.
Reign of Queens,
Yeah.
almost exactly a year ago. What was that one?
That was through Dragon Soul Press, and it was like, I think it was just like Twisted Queens.
Oh,
so
very cool.
kinda like
I
the
love that
darkness of
theme.
that. Mhm.
Yeah. And then we've got another one from David. I wish I could write as good as Mackenzie. She's excellent.
Oh, thanks, David.
We've got another one. Great atmospheric story, and the tone of voice really helps. Oh, and then I enjoy this one. Romantic horror. Love it. Read it. Read the book.
Do it. Do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is. It's a very romantic story.
Mm-hmm. It is. Totally.
Young love
Yeah.
by a stagnant pond.
Mm-hmm. It's really, you get those nice summer camp memories. I've never actually been to summer camp, but this is how I imagine
I went
it
to
is.
like a school one for a week where we do but once, and that was about it. And yeah, we had a good time. Yeah.
No
I
creepy
was
lakes.
never lucky enough to have actual summer camps.
Yeah.
With, people away from
Right. Like
school
stay away
people.
camps. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say goodbye now. Thank you so much for reading. And again, great story. I think people are going to really enjoy where it goes. Because I know I did. All right, see you in a bit. All right. So last but never least, we have Trey. How are you doing today?
Doing good. It's only fair. I'm in the book first, so it's okay if I go last.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit about your story.
So my story is abyssal horror, and as soon as I clicked send on the submission, I thought, did you really just use the word horror in a story title for a horror anthology? So I was beating myself up about that, and then nobody else did, so I feel like it's okay. My story is, and it's great to hear all of these different takes on waters and bodies of water and the horrors that lurk within. Mine's old school. It's classic ocean, deep ocean, sea monster awfulness. So,
yeah.
And that really, if people ask, how I kind of got the idea for it, I still remember a conversation I had with a friend long, long time ago, and she was a big fan of going night diving. And one of the things that she said that she liked to do was in her group, she would kind of lag behind and wait until people got away from her. And then she would turn 180 degrees back towards where they came from and turn out her light so that she could just be surrounded by nothing but pure blackness and not have any idea what was around her.
Oh my gosh.
So I believe my first response was, "Are you effing kidding me?"
I don't. That sounds terrifying, but I feel like I would do the same thing just to feel that terrifyingness, that rush of something can eat me any second, and I wouldn't even know it.
Yeah. And so her gift to me was that nightmare, which has,
That moment.
stayed with me for years and years. And when I saw the call, I initially saw it a couple of months before it ended and thought, oh, I should write something for that. That sounds kind of cool. And then I forgot. And then I remembered 2 days before it was due. And I wrote the first section, the section I'm going to read, with 1 day to go, and then pretty much had to write 6,000 words in 24 hours to make it by the end of the call. And I mean, and your call time is like the best ever. It said like September 13th, midnight, end of world or something like that.
No, yeah, it's end of day, last place on
last
Earth.
place on Earth. And first of all, anytime I have to like Google what that is in order to figure out when I could submit, that's awesome. It's like a little puzzle for the author. But yeah, that ended up being 5 o'clock in the morning my time.
Yeah.
And I ended up writing this thing, including the terrifying last bit, to me at least, at 4:45. And then I clicked send. And so it was a nightmare. For readers, they don't get it. But for writers know writing 6,000 words in a day is just a life.
That's insane. It always impresses me how people can get things done and have them like even remotely edited in like less than a week, let alone a day.
Yeah, it's kids, don't try that at home. It's not the recommended way to do it.
Like, don't do this. Except for this time it worked out. So
it worked out great. Yeah, but I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, don't do it again. Okay, well, I'm going to let you take over, and if you want to give a little bit of a snippet about it, you can, but if not, just get right into it. Have fun.
Okay, thanks.
All right, see you soon.
So, no context, no nothing. We're just going to start with the very first part, and hopefully that's enough to entice. The great whale took one final breath and slipped beneath the azure surface of the Atlantic. His tissues and organs now pulsed with enough oxygen to stay submerged for an hour, more than enough time for the hunt. The sperm whale's massive squarish head tipped forward, and for a moment his body held perfectly still, vertical in the silent blue expanse. Then one giant sweep of his 12-foot wide tail propelled the whale in the only direction that mattered, down. The large male descended slowly at first, letting 70 tons of body mass do most of the work. At 250 meters, the undulating tail helped accelerate the dive, pushing deeper and deeper into the darkening void. By 1,000 meters, even the sun's strongest rays could penetrate no farther. The whale continued the dive in complete darkness, every square centimeter of his thick skin under constant assault by water pressure that would jellify a human being instantly. Even in the endless black, though, the whale wasn't blind. Soft clicks, generated in the front tip of the elongated head, projected a sonic wave through thick spermaceti toward the rear of the great whale's skull. The bony rear plate, shaped like a satellite dish, focused the wave and reflected the energy forward into the deep. The clicks fired ahead of the whale at over 230 decibels, more powerful than a jet engine's roar, in a tight beam less than a foot wide. This built-in sonar allowed him to see everything that waited in the dark. At 2,000 meters, the great whale sensed the first returning clicks, sound bouncing off something far below. Something almost as long as the whale itself, but thinner, with long appendages trailing behind. A giant squid, the length of a city bus, meandered through frigid water almost a kilometer below. Food. The tail flicked harder now, pushing the excited predator faster. At the same time, his echolocation clicks increased in frequency, giving the sperm whale a clearer picture of his next meal. As the whale closed to within 500 meters of the prey, the clicking was a constant stream of energy. A human being placed in the path of this sonic assault would have been vibrated into pieces. The squid, though, lacked the ability to detect ultrasonic waves. It had no idea it was being tracked from above. Nearly a half-ton of precious fat and muscle, the squid swam in a lazy circle, squarely in death's crosshairs. 200 meters from the prey and closing fast, the great whale rolled to position his jaw for the kill. The mouth cracked open, and 48 teeth, each the size of a man's forearm, felt the rush of icy water. 150 meters. 100 meters. Without warning, the sonar image of the squid changed. It wriggled violently from side to side, thrashing in the water. The long, thin body was being torn apart at the midsection, and the two pieces simply disappeared. The whale slowed, shifting its head to reacquire the prey, but its sonar sensed nothing. Well, not quite nothing. The clicks bounced hard off the only remaining obstacle, the bottom. Confused at his prey's disappearance, the sperm whale swept its sonar all along the ocean floor, searching. And then the bottom moved. The whale stopped. More clicks confirmed the impossible, sonic echoes returning faster and faster, as though the ocean floor itself was rising up through the deep, slowly, steadily. The great whale wasn't afraid, only confused. As the largest apex predator in the history of the planet, it had never known fear, which is why the sperm whale barely moved when it sensed a flash of movement on the rising seafloor. Something sharp punched through the thick blubber of the whale's belly, something large enough to shove the animal upward. The whale shuddered, feeling more shock than pain, at first. Then warmth enveloped him in a cloud. Some part of the animal's brain knew what that meant, hundreds of liters of its own blood gushing out into the cold, remorseless black water. But the great whale no longer cared. It died, sending a weakening series of clicks in all directions as it spasmed, trying to understand what had attacked him in his own hunting ground. The truth was far beyond the great whale's ability to reason or even detect. An enemy large enough to mimic the ocean's limitless bottom. Something powerful, something hungry, something that now continued in the only direction that mattered. Up. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, I'm enjoying that.
So, if you want to know what happens.
By the book.
Yes.
Thank you so much for reading. That was a great story. And it's, it was, got some comments. I read the story at Selection and it was amazing. Great work, Trey.
Thank you.
And someone was talking about your story. They were also talking about your story. It was night diving. That sounds like where I go when I dive. I'm bad.
Yeah, and that would be my version of hell. I tell you that.
I know, right? It's terrifying. Terrifying. So we are going to bring everyone back. I'm going to try to. So everyone, just get ready. Everyone's like scrambling. Putting their shirts back on. No, I'm joking. All right, so we're going to start with Holley, and then Steve, you're coming up next. And then McKenzie and Chris. Hello. Nice to see everybody again. The gang is back, and we have some exciting news that happened in the background. Someone else got their book.
Yeah, showed up right in the middle.
Yeah. Which is excellent, though. So if anybody has any questions, put them in now. If you haven't, I'm going to do a quick pulling for postcards. If you haven't put your name in, Rachel, now I have to put your name. Oh, Charles, I got to put these people's names in first. If you haven't put your names in yet, put your names down. Maybe we'll start with a question first and then we'll pull so that people have time to put their last minute name in for the draw. So we do have one question here. Question for the panel. Do you fear the sea? And if so, why? So does anyone actually fear the sea? Like, you've asked my mother, she says yes. She will not even put her foot in it.
Oh yeah, I totally fear the sea.
Yeah, completely. How about you, Holley? Do you fear the sea?
I do, and it's because I'm a little ashamed to admit I can't swim. So I think part of that is because I'm afraid of the water. I used to have nightmares when I was a child of drowning, and it was horrible because I have some sleep apnea, so I hold my breath sometimes in my sleep, and that would manifest in dreams that I was drowning and I couldn't breathe. Because of that,
that's terrifying.
Terrified and never learned to swim. So thus, yes, I am terrified of the sea.
Yes. How about Chris Banner? Are you scared of the sea at all?
No, I grew up swimming, and I grew up in Ohio, so no chance of being in any large bodies of water. But my mom, I was born in California. My mom loved California. She loved the beaches and the oceans. And so when I was little, the ocean was this mystical place where beautiful things happen. And that, even though I live close to the beach and all that, like I've never gotten over like just the beach is like this beautiful, harmonious place that, I absolutely love.
Yeah.
I've never had that fear of it.
Yeah. What about you, Mackenzie?
Oh, I'm terrified of all water, just all of it. Like Holley, I can't really swim very well. And then I also don't like the idea of things touching me that I can't see. And yeah, I'm even in swimming pools, I have like an irrational fear, like of sharks. Like I know there's no sharks, but in my head, I'm like, no, there could be a shark in here, which is weird because sharks are actually my favorite animal and I love them, but at a safe, respectable distance.
So you're sure you're going to be eaten by a shark?
Yes.
I had a run-in with a shark, so I have.
How did that happen?
I was snorkeling when I was a kid. I had, finally gotten over some of my fear of jaws. So, went snorkeling, and I was treading water with a buddy and out near the edge of the coral reef. And then I saw the instructor pointing and waving at us because there was a shark moving along the bottom, coming close to where we were. We were up a ramp, where the seafloor kind of ramps up and then approaches the beach. And I was like, oh, crap. And I looked at my buddy and he was already swimming. And so while he was doing that, I turned back to see where the shark was and then felt like this really sharp pain in my calf. And I turned around thinking, something just took my leg off, and I had cut my leg on the coral. I had backed up. So now I'm looking at tendrils of blood coming out into the water, knowing that a shark is somewhere relatively close. So I just panic and start swimming as hard as I can. And I thought, you know what I should do? I should get up in this like 1 foot area of the water above the coral because the shark can't follow me there. So I went swimming, and every stroke I'm banging my knees on the coral. I'm banging my feet on the coral. I'm bleeding more. And I tell you, the 50 feet, 60 feet to get to the beach, the whole way, you're just waiting. You're just sure it's going to get you and drag you back into the water. And then I got out.
That is what you should have known.
Yeah, that was much better than what you wrote.
No. But, honestly,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and then I got out of the water and I was cut and bleeding, and I was like, yeah. And it was probably 10 years before I went back in the ocean again. So.
Yeah,
fair enough.
That's understandable.
That'll do
Yeah.
it. That'll do it.
What about you, Steve? Are you scared of the sea?
I wasn't until just now.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Sorry, not sorry.
No, that's funny. We've got. I'm going to pull 3 names first, and then we're going to get to David's asked this question twice because I think he thinks I missed the one up above. I didn't, David. I was going to go back up to see it. So we have Charles. You are a winner. Winner, turkey dinner. Well, not a turkey dinner. You're getting a postcard and a bookmark from It Calls from the Sea. Okay, so Charles, you are a winner. Please send me a message. So I forget. Oh, and then we've got Rhonda. I don't know if you can actually read this, but there you go. Rhonda, Charles, and last one. So you can see that I'm not faking it. Alyssa. So Charles, Rhonda, and Alyssa, you are our winners for today. Congratulations. You're going to be getting a postcard and a bookmark. So if you can, go either message Michelle River, which is my name, me your address, or go on the Erie River. I'll try to connect with you, but Erie River Messenger too as well. You can just give me your address and I'll make sure to send those next couple days. Simone just said, winner, fish dinner. They also said, I didn't realize we were going to get a free horror short story today. What an extra. But seriously, that's terrifying. Like, I am not scared of the ocean or anything like that, but that I can almost fear, like I can feel the fear of like, oh my gosh, I've cut myself. There's a shark around here. And how the hell am I going to get there without dying? So like, while you were swimming, were there moments where you were like, this is the last moment of my life. I regret everything, or I regret nothing. Like,
Well, I was
that
like,
moment of I am going to die here today.
I was like 15 at the time, so I didn't really have a lot to regret, but I was absolutely sure that I was going to die unless the cloud, maybe the trail of urine would perhaps distract the shark. I'm not sure.
Mask the blood, be like, just
That's
pee
right.
on it. It'll be fine.
No. That's terrifying.
No.
And now that I've
would be
relayed that
terrified
story,
as like a full-grown adult, like a 15-year-old, I think I would have been more than just urine.
well, I will say that the fright was balanced by the fact that I discovered later on that it was a topless beach, so I recovered pretty quickly. Again, 15.
That's awesome. So here's another question. Question for the authors: what's your favorite horror subgenre? Does anyone want to start this one? Holley, I'm making you start.
I already answered, David. No, my favorite coming of age, weird horror and Southern Gothic. Those are easily my favorite genres. I recently went on like a spree of trying to read like coming of age that I hadn't read before. So I read like McCameron's Boy's Life. I reread Stephen King's It, which I'd read many, many years ago, but hadn't read in a long time. And then I'm reading now Dan Simmons' Summer of Night. So I've been mixing it. Like I will read like a coming of age, and then I'll read like a Southern Gothic, trying to like infuse those influences into my own writing, because when I read those things, I think that's what I want to do. So those would have to be my favorites.
Perfect. What about you, Steve?
I think for me, I've always had a weakness for creature features.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that has either an abnormal creature or just something normal and crazed, that'll get me going. Body horror has always been something that I've loved. So either of those, I'd say.
Yeah. I love reading body horror, but I hate it at the same time.
Kind of the same, yeah.
Yeah, like in my head, I'm one of those people where like I read something, I can feel it, and I'm just like, the whole time I'm like, ugh.
But that's what makes it great.
I know, right?
The feeling of just like clenching up while you're reading something. I love it.
Yeah. If I have to like pry my hands open because they've like, I know I've read a good book. How about you, Mackenzie?
I find myself writing a lot of body horror, even though, I can't really read it. Like it just, I can't.
Yeah, because you wrote the body horror one, that mirror one, right?
Yes. And the whole time I was writing it and editing it, I was just like, oh God, like, is this too much?
It's still killing me. I love it. All right. Chris, what's your favorite subgenre?
Right now I have to say Midwest Gothic.
Okay.
I had started researching Southern Gothic for a story and found there was Midwest Gothic. And since that's where I'm from, it just like clicked on my buttons. And so I find myself writing a lot of that right now. I also had started writing a bit of body horror for an anthology, and I've kind of been fascinated by that ever since. It made me really uncomfortable to write. And it keeps like wanting to kind of creep into things. So I might have to start exploring some of that in the future.
Yeah. It's a fun genre, but it's it's hard to read for me, but I love it. How about you, Trey? Do you have a favorite subgenre?
Well, I'm big on the creature stuff like Steve, but I would also say apocalyptic. Justin Cronin's The Passage, McGammon's Swan Song, the first 350 pages of The Stand by Stephen King were probably the scariest thing I've ever read, followed by 700 pages of some of the most boring. So, but man, he nailed that first 350 pages. The things that involve like the breakdown of society, the end of everything, that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah. Okay, we've got another question. I think after this we might have another one. If not, we're going to wrap up anyways because we are going a little bit over. And yes, Charles, you can still get a turkey dinner. Where is the most beautiful water-based place you have ever been to, lake or sea area? I'm going to actually answer this one. Costa Rica. There's this beautiful, by the volcanoes, there's this beautiful,
Arenal.
like, now I can't even remember what the word is for it.
Cenote?
Hot springs that like weave in and out of this like rainforest, and it goes through to like, they have obviously like this fancy dancy place there as well, but you can like walk up and just like hang out in the springs at any point during it, and it was just gorgeous because you're like surrounded by everything. But I thought that would have made a pretty cool story.
It still can.
It's like I have a list of about 45,000 things that I want to write, and when I have a moment, I'm sure I'm going to write half of one of them and then forget about it.
Sounds about right. It's normally how it goes. Great idea. Get half of it down and then just on to the next.
Exactly. But Trey, let's just do a reverse of what we just did. Trey, where is the most beautiful water-based place you've ever been?
Well, first, I've been to the Arenal area of Costa Rica where the volcano is, and we've been to those hot springs. So those are pretty impressive. I would probably say we went to an island for our honeymoon called Joost van Dyke. It's one of the British Virgin Islands where the sand is pure white and the water is that super, super pale blue for the first 50 yards off the beach. And then it gets dark. Yeah, I stayed in the really nice pale blue part, and that was just paradise. I loved it. Yeah. But, but I'm always thinking what's out there just beyond the pretty stuff.
Exactly.
So I'm broken.
Aliens. Did you guys see that thing about the aliens that go in
No.
We could talk about it. Look it up. Apparently they have like a video of aliens landing in the water and disappearing.
Okay, well, damn it. Now I got to see that.
Well, now I'm like, why didn't anybody write me this? Now I have to write it.
Another idea.
Anyways, okay, let's go. Who is that? Who's next? Best place, water-based place you've ever been? Holley? Because I can't remember the last order.
Sure. I went to the Dominican Republic several years ago, and it was beautiful there. Like, we stayed at a resort, which was all inclusive. It was wonderful. They had the most beautiful beaches with like the crystal clear water. Like, you could stand in it and look down and you could see your feet. And compared to the Jersey Shore where I live now, like where everything's dirty and gross and there are people everywhere, it was just the most beautiful thing. And I like the beaches, the water there. It was gorgeous. But also, like, at the resort we were at, there was like a bar in the middle of the swimming pool, so you could like swim to the bar and order drinks, and that was great. And we also
that's the best part about all inclusives, like down south,
right?
The swim up bar.
And then we had like we went on a boat that was they had like unlimited like rum, and we were just like hanging out on this boat, like laying there drinking rum, laying in the sun. The most beautiful oceans surrounding you, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time. And even though I'm not that much of a beach person, I'm more like a mountains kind of person, I would definitely go back there in a heartbeat. It was gorgeous.
How about you, Chris? Where's the best place you've been?
I'll probably have to go with the tide pools in Carlsbad. Mm-hmm. It's just beautiful to go there. I just absolutely love being at the beach, and then like the tide pools themselves are just really interesting. You never know what you're going to find there. There's always like a lot of families too, and I love watching kids find things.
Yeah.
And so it's really hysterical to watch them exploring the rocks and to see sea creatures, depending on, what time of day it is, where the tides are, and to see them exploring that. So I absolutely love it.
Very cool. That sounds cool. I've never been to a tide pool thing like that before, so that sounds awesome. Okay, McKenzie.
I'd probably say a few years ago, my husband and I went to Mexico and stayed in Playa del Carmen, and it was just beautiful there, like beaches and everything. And then we went to the Mayan ruins in Tulum, and yeah, just like all of it was gorgeous. I will say that's also like the scariest water place I ever went, because we also visited some of like the cenotes, where it's just this giant hole. You just look down, there's all this water. That was terrifying in a beautiful way, but yeah, also I'm just like not going in there.
No.
Nope.
What about you, Steve?
I don't really have like some grand trip that I've been on to some gorgeous place. So I guess I'd pick the Gulf Coast. It feels a little cheaty because it's like right there, but
My second place is like Lake Huron, which is just a couple hours away from my house.
but yeah, I think the Gulf Coast is
No, the
really
Gulf
cool.
Coast is nice. Like I've been to Mobile several times when I was young because I was in Alabama, so that was an easy vacation for us. We'd go either to Panama City Beach, Florida, or to like Gulf Shores or something like that, and it is nice there. It's beautiful. So don't sell it short just because it's close.
Yeah.
It feels cheaty just to be like, oh, down the street.
I felt the same way because Carlsbad isn't that far from me.
Oh my goodness, you're too funny. And then, of course, Simone says, so many beautiful places ruined forever by the imaginations of horror writers. Yep.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and sharing your stories with us. Like, I think this collection has, every time we do a collection, I think it outpaces the others, but I truly believe it. Like, the story writing in it is great. I think we got some great different varieties of horror in the entire bit. And just like, thank you so much for letting us share your words with everyone and submitting and reading today, because I know it can be kind of nerve-wracking to read on camera. So thank you so much for doing it. And thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in. Again, if you haven't had time to put your name down or write a comment, do it at any time in the next week. I will be doing a draw in a week from today. And it's going to have everyone's names that have done it so far. And it's going to be for a signed copy of It Calls from the Sea. So please enjoy. And thank you for following us. If you don't know where to find us, you can find Erie River on Facebook, which is probably where you're finding the event now. But we're also on Twitter, Instagram, and we have a website at www.erieriverpublishing.com. And if you liked my mug, we have some swag on Etsy and Redbubble and things like that, where you can get stickers and all that. See, look, we got stickers. So anyways, thank you for supporting us and listening to us. And again, thank you so much for joining. And we'll see you soon.
Bye. Thanks.
All right, thank you.